Hello everyone and welcome to This Nintendo Life. My name is Mblem and this is episode 60 of our show. I'm here, as always, I'm joined by Bally on this day where my house has fallen to pieces, the electricity is gone, I'm ill as a horse or a dog or any other animal, and I'm in the cold and the dark. Bally, how are you doing in ye old merry Brussels?
I'm in the light and the goodness. And
You've ascended. Although you were tweeting the other day about how you've discovered that Brussels rains more than Scotland does.
Yeah, it's been raining an unbelievable amount since I've come here. I can't actually describe it.
Well, maybe you just brought it all with you.
Especially on this day, which we should mention.
This day?
Zelda's 30th anniversary.
It is, yeah. 21st of February, 1986. That's when it was. The Legend of Zelda first came out in Japan, 30th anniversary. We should probably do something talking about that at some point. We didn't plan enough for this show for that to be the third segment this week. But hey, expect us to talk about Zelda at some point this year, because we'll probably talk about a Zelda thing or two eventually. Because, you know, it's one of our favourite franchises and want it to be represented.
Definitely.
So yeah, that'll probably happen. But before we move into all that stuff, Bally, how about you lay out the show for everyone for this week?
This time we are going to talk about what we've been playing. We've got some more emails, and for our third segment, it's the grand return for the fifth time of the Jukebox.
It is indeed the great part of the show where we indulge in some video game music, test each other, have a bit of fun, and challenge you, the listener at home, to play along with us. So, yeah, look forward to that. It's been a little while since the Jukebox reared its head, but I'm sure we will enjoy guessing all that stuff. Well, Bally will enjoy guessing because I'm the one in charge this time.
Indeed.
So, fun times ahead. But before we do that, let's talk about the latest hotness, Bally. Fire Emblem Fates. It's out in Europe. We've been playing it. Oh no, wait, that's not true. Unfortunately, we'll talk about that game in 6 years' time when it finally gets localized. But for now, Bally, you've been playing another Fire Emblem game, which you've finally come to the end of. Tell us about it.
Yes, I finished Fire Emblem Awakening. Took me quite some time, actually. I think I started it back. I got it around September last year. I can't remember, maybe October. But it's been a while. Been playing so many other games in between and likewise. So I've talked about this on the show a bit already, but I've got a few points I want to add because like the ending is pretty cool. But I would say that like as much as I've already talked about the presentation, I feel like as you get closer to the end of the game, there are just more and more variations on settings. So there's one level, for example, which is like you're in a tree and like you're fighting on the branches of this tree, and it just looks really nice, and it's like just quite a nice idea for a game like Fire Emblem where not a criticism, but just something the older games did, like Fire Emblem 7. A lot of the maps can look quite samey. You're on plains, you're in castles, and you're not really seeing too many different environments. So I think Awakening just in general is amazing at mixing it up.
I think that's a flaw of maybe the idea that the GBA games are kind of working off a tile set, in the sense that like it's kind of reproducing assets constantly and maybe varying their color a little bit to change up the look. But Awakening is much more bespoke in the fact that like these levels feel like they're all hand designed and that they all have unique assets in them, and because of that they kind of they're more kind of unique and varied, and they just stand out more for certain. That tree branch one like is one that I remember quite well because it's very, you know, it stands out and it kind of hits you across the face. It's like, wow, this is something that's unique and interesting and different. I think, you know, even by the end of the game where you kind of I guess spoilers for the end of Fire Emblem Awakening, but you're on the back of a dragon basically, and it's pretty fucking cool, you know. So yeah, no, that stuff is great.
It's really cool. I think my biggest criticism with this whole game is the story. And don't get me wrong, I do agree with you, Mblem, that I don't think Fire Emblem games really have very good stories ever. But the thing about this one is that it kind of with its presentation and those incredible like animated cutscenes, it's like it's building up itself to have a more substantial story. And I feel like it tries to have a more substantial story because of those cutscenes, and it tries to mix it up a bit. But I just think the story has an unbelievable like number of flaws, and I don't know. I feel like I was tricked into hoping that the story would be better because of the presentation. So I've listed like a few issues with the plot, and this is going to
Sure,
be
go ahead.
incredibly spoilery.
Yeah. So
But
skip ahead like 2 minutes or whatever.
yeah, 2 minutes, I don't know. But so there's this guy called Basilio who like apparently dies,
Uh-huh.
but he turns up later, and then he's just like, oh yeah, after I got hit, I just faked I was dead, and then I got up later, and it's like, great, are you kidding me? Like
Let's just take away the emotional impact of that moment.
exactly. One of the most like impactful things is the opening of the game, the opening cutscene, and you see your avatar character Robin like kills Crom. And this is like this is sort of like foresight for the end of the game. So when the end of the game happens, it's like the second or third last chapter, and you see like your avatar killing Crom, and then like the cutscene happens with like Valadar or whatever, and then a second later, Crom just like gets up, and you're just like, what? Why is he alive? What has happened? And then it just turns out that like, oh, your avatar before sticking like its magic sword into Crom, like reduced his power just for that
Uh-huh.
one spot, and
Right.
they never explain why. So he wasn't fighting at full strength, so he didn't actually kill Crom. He just winded him or something.
Uh-huh.
It makes no sense, and
Well, it
like
makes sense within the mechanical universe of Fire Emblem in the sense that you fucking go up to someone and slice them with a sword, and it just does a certain amount of damage, and they're still standing there with health, you know?
yeah, true,
So I,
but
I guess on that level
yeah.
it does work,
Um,
funnily enough.
I think the ending of the game is terrible, and I actually think the best plot twist in the whole game is the whole thing with Lucina being Crom's daughter. I actually
Uh-huh.
think they do that well. What they do badly is explaining it. Now, obviously, I've said on the show so many times I'm not the
Time
biggest fan of time
travel.
travel, but if you're going to have time travel, at least explain like why and like what's the point. And like I actually looked this up. I said like how did the time travel happen? And apparently Naga, I've forgotten who Naga is. Is she
A
like a
dragon?
is she a dragon?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well she gave some spell to like Emerin or something, or no, to Lucina, sorry, and it allowed her to time travel. It's like that. When did they say that? Like it, and like where are all these zombie warriors coming from? Like, are they meant to be coming from the future or the past, or they're just being conjured up by something? Like, why did Lucina call herself Marth? Like,
Because she
why?
didn't want to create a vortex in which Crom would then end up calling his daughter Lucina and, you know, all that stuff. Because she could change the future, you know? She messed things up. I don't know. Fuck, look, I'm not going to explain away the story. I 100% agree with you that Awakening tells a kind of a garbage story, and I think, to be frank, most Fire Emblem stories are pretty garbage, and I don't pay attention to them that keenly. For me, it's the character interactions and the support conversations and that sort of more nitty gritty stuff that I connect way more with. And
Yeah,
I think you kind of felt the same way, right? Like some of those support conversations are really funny. They're so well written. I think 8.4 just did a fantastic job just localizing all that stuff and making it
yeah,
feel
absolutely.
like really good.
I mean, as much as I agree with you that like the story does suffer, I kind of I want it to be good, and I try to look for it to be good, and like I do strongly feel that I really want Fates to be that game that has the presentation of Awakening, but then lops on a cracking story with it. Like I know it's get some writers or something. Like good stories are doable. You just need to employ the right people and
Yeah.
write the right stuff. Like it is doable, and it's just if you're having such strong characters and such great interactions, I just think Awakening was just a few like the plot twists are fine. Just explain them better. Just I don't know. It's just how do you make a good story? It was just quite frustrating in that sense because I felt like I did try to invest in the story and then it it sucked near the end because
It betrayed your
it
expectations.
betrayed me, and especially like I said with those cutscenes, you just want a bit more. But I mean, overall, I think this is better than Fire Emblem 7 in my opinion. I think if I played it again, I think I would play it on normal, but play with classic. I was playing it on normal with casual. I think that I was getting guilty of being a bit sloppy at times, and like I'd let a unit down. Oh, it doesn't matter because I can just replay the level, or not replay, but move on, and they come back afterwards. So I think with Fates, I'd like to at least try to play the game on normal with classic, like because I think that's a good combination.
At least for Birthright, right? You know.
Definitely. And you know the other line sounds incredibly difficult, and I'm sure we'll both just struggle like hell through that. But we'll see.
Oh, I won't struggle, Bally. I'm an
Oh, won't
expert.
you? Oh, won't you? Yeah. Some other games you've been struggling with, but
yeah.
I think that this game is one of my favorite 3DS games. It's really, really good. It took me a while to get into. It didn't like hit me straight away when I picked it up. I only played like 5-6 hours and left the game for a long time. So it's not an immediate an immediate hit with me, but it does grow on you. And I think easily the best part, like you've already said, are those support conversations. They're so well written. You do actually care more about the characters. You are interested in, like, they all actually have a character. Like, you can identify with the story they're going through and what they're feeling and things like that. And it's actually, and I love the mechanic of like pairing them up. I mean, I'm really glad that Fates has kept that mechanic, although it has changed in some ways, which I'm sure we can explain and do when we finally get to that game.
Who knows if that ever comes out here? You know, fucking
exactly. So I mean, I think this is, and it was meant to be the final Fire Emblem game, and you can definitely see that in its production and the way.
Especially when you randomly discovered, having not known this, that kind of when you open up all the Spot Pass features, hey, here's like 500 characters from every Fire Emblem game of the past.
It's so overwhelming. It's really overwhelming. I think that's really cool, and I'd love to go back and do some of the extra chapters. And I've only done a couple of the child chapters, like to recruit your children, so I'd like to go back to it, maybe just before Fates comes out in Europe, whenever the hell that's going to be, but I might try it a bit in the future. But yeah, absolutely love this game.
I've actually been going back to it recently while you were kind of playing through the end, and I had one more child to recruit who I was waiting for the parents to get skills that I wanted to pass down to them, because that's a whole fucking rabbit hole that you can go down that you never wanted to, because you just kind of want to play through the game and be done with it, instead of being me and being a maniac. But it's still, look, it holds up wonderfully. It looks gorgeous, sounds fantastic, is just so mechanically strong. Like, it's fundamentally so well executed on a mechanical level. And yeah, you know, I'm looking forward to when Fates gets here, whenever that might be, and then we'll get a game where the choices you make actually matter, as opposed to in Awakening, where it gives you choices throughout the whole game, and none of them literally make any difference whatsoever. Do you notice that? Like, they always give you, like...
the very final choice you make does change the final
right, but then,
scene,
like, retroactively, you go back and it doesn't matter anyway, because, I don't know. So...
Actually, the final... Sorry, just very quickly, the final, like, this is very spoilery again, so careful. Ready? Spoilers, here we go. Right. when you're, like, killing Grima at the end, and it like, will it be your avatar or will it be Chrom? I was just like, right, I want to make it my avatar. So I got Chrom in to get hit, and then I got my avatar to get hit, and then like, oh, Grima's still not dead. I guess I'll just use my other unit, Tharja, to kill him and see what happens. So she kills him, and then you get the choice after that. It's just like, who landed the final blow? Was it Bally or Chrom? And I was like, well, it wasn't. It was Tharja, but you're still giving me this choice. Like, what is going on? So then,
I remember
shoehorns, like shoehorns in this choice. I'm like, okay, fine, it was Bally, and then it just like played out, and it's just funny. Like, it's so pointless.
Yeah, it is. It's completely useless at the end. So, oh boy, that's a shame. Oh well, you still really enjoyed Awakening, which
absolutely.
is great. because I do feel like it was a big breakout success for a reason. Like it's the reason a lot of people got into Fire Emblem. So yeah, I think that people understand why. It's fantastic. So for me, I've been playing a little game that was part of a bet we had,
Oh
Bally.
boy.
Have we talked about this on the podcast before? I can't remember if we have.
I think it's worth mentioning again.
Sure, do you want to tell people why I'm playing Advance Wars?
So I've been trying to get you to play Advance Wars for a long time, MBZ.
Yeah.
And I've been like, Advance Wars is so good, you'd love it. You like Fire Emblem. I highly recommend it. You're like, yeah, I don't know, I might try it. Yeah, I guess I should try it. And then, so all these Shovel Knight rumors were swirling around the internet to do with Smash Brothers, and I sort of said, hey, MBZ, I'll make you a bet. If Shovel Knight is in Smash Brothers, you have to like buy Fire Emblem and not Fire Emblem, buy Advance Wars and like play it, and then you're like, right, okay. And what if he's not in Smash Brothers? I was like, well, I'll buy it for you and then you can play it. So like either way, you're gonna play this game.
Basically. Yeah.
So yeah, we found out Shovel Knight wasn't in Smash Brothers. So when I saw you last, we downloaded that and I paid for it.
You paid for me to play Advance Wars.
I did.
Just the way it should be. So I've been playing through the original Advance Wars, the first game on GBA. And it's a very interesting game.
On Wii U.
Yes, on the Wii U Virtual Console.
Yes.
So in many ways, Advance Wars has similarities to Fire Emblem, but it's just so drastically different when you kind of boil down to kind of the minutiae of it. I think that Advance Wars is a far more tactical game than Fire Emblem ever is. And the reason for that, I think, is because in Fire Emblem, you can kind of crutch on the fact that it has these RPG elements, in the sense that you can level up your characters and make them extremely powerful. And as such, when you enter situations such as a Falcon Knight versus an Archer, if you're a high enough level, that kind of distinction between the super effective hit of the arrow doesn't make a real difference, right? And so you can, in a sense, brute force your way through if you're having trouble in Fire Emblem. And that means it becomes less of a tactical game. It means you're kind of being a bit more sloppy and not really thinking about your moves as much and not making them as crucial. In Advance Wars, the playing field is even for everyone. The fact that you start with units and your opponent starts with units and they all have the same stats and they all are kind of paired off with one another, it means that every move you make and every encounter you go into is that much more meaningful, and yet also less meaningful at the same time because of the fact that each unit is expendable and you can rebuild stuff. Now, this isn't the case in every map. Like, there are certain situations and scenarios it'll throw you in where it'll be like, okay, so you have this many units, you have to make sure you use them, and you're not going to be able to get access to any more because you don't have
pre-deployed. It's called, yeah.
Right. So there's a difference there between, building them up and not building them up. And it's really led to situations where I have found myself, like, pretty stuck and not knowing what I need to necessarily do and finding it very difficult. And I tweeted out, like, Bally is a fucking crazy person for thinking Fire Emblem is harder than Advance Wars because this is really challenging me in a way that I didn't really expect, honestly. Like, I thought that because it's a little more simple in terms of kind of the wider scope of things, there's not much more, like, stat stuff, you're not really digging into, like, support conversations and anything. I thought that on a base level it would be simpler, and yes, it is simpler, but that simplicity means that it kind of boils down to being much harder to kind of get a grasp of getting good at it, I think.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, I was a little shocked at how much you struggled with some of the missions you've been talking about. I don't know. It's a lot to get your head around, like how to move your units across the map and things. And like, I never used a guide for this game. I mean, I did use save states occasionally, I believe, but I never went over the top with them at all. And I can see it's a lot to get into. And as good as those first 10 chapters are, 10 missions, I should say, chapters is what they say for Fire Emblem, but so the first 10 missions, they do teach you everything, but they do skirt over elements that definitely become really important later in the game. And I don't know, maybe that's an issue and why some of these missions you found like super challenging.
Yeah, maybe. I think also it's the fact that every new kind of introductory mission gives you multiple new things that you have to deal with. Like when you're going to learn about the sea ships, like you have the submarine and the lander and the cruiser and like all this stuff kind of at once. And it maybe feels a little overwhelming to just be like, quick hit, let's do this thing and then move on. Because then the next time you come across like a sea battle, it's maybe 7 chapters into the main game, and by that point you've like kind of forgotten what the functions are of all of these, like the fact that the cruiser can only attack this certain thing, it can also attack land things, and the submarine can't attack things on land, but it can dive underwater. Like there are specific, I think every unit has a specific set of tools that you need to be aware of, otherwise like you will find yourself in situations where something unexpected happens either on your side or the enemy's side, and it kind of takes you aback a little bit. And I think I experienced that quite a lot throughout my time playing the game.
Yeah, definitely. And like everything from making sure your units are in forests and mountains rather than leaving them open on roads and things. So although roads are obviously really good for traveling and like that's great, you take a ton of damage when you're hit on a road. And like I feel like that's emphasized 100% more in Advance Wars and Fire Emblem is the benefit uh, of the environment around you. So in Advance Wars, staying in cities, being on mountains, being in forests, like you using the terrain to your advantage is so much more important.
Yeah, those defense ratings that you have seem to matter far more.
Yeah.
Because it's not really a case. Can you ever miss in Advance Wars? Like, I don't think you can actually miss anything, right?
You don't miss. You can sometimes do 0 damage.
Right.
There's no luck. I don't think there's any luck in like when you make a hit. Like it'll consistently always do a preset amount of damage.
Yeah, because I think like in Fire Emblem, those forests and stuff, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they like do affect evasion and stuff in that sense. And because Advance Wars doesn't really have evasion mechanics, and it's much
it does
more
less
to do
damage,
with
absolutely. Yeah.
right, it's much more to do with the damage dealt, and so it becomes far more important when everyone's on an equal playing field. Like the fact that you can have the mech unit be in the mountain firing against a tank on the road suddenly like turns this unit which shouldn't necessarily be able to go one-on-one with a tank, and all of a sudden it becomes able to, despite the fact that, you know, it's not really changed anything. It's much more to do with the location that it's been placed in. And so once you were talking to me about that and saying like, remember this thing, and then like I completely forgot about the idea that like infantry soldiers can join up with one another if their health is low, and they just turn into one unit and all that stuff. Like there's a little bit of minutia there that I think because of your years of playing Advance Wars, you are just much more naturally familiar with, in the same way that I'm much more naturally familiar with kind of the tiny elements of Fire Emblem. So that definitely makes a difference, I think.
But sure. I mean, are you enjoying it, or is it like a real struggle, or it's a bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. I'm really enjoying what I've played so far.
What mission are you up to?
I think I'm up to mission 14 is the next one I have to do.
Okay.
So far, there's been one map which has made me go to a guide and kind of throw my hands up in the air and say, fucking, I don't know what to do, because sometimes it feels like they're overwhelming you, because there's a map where you have to kind of defend a choke point, and you have 2 bridges that you have to go towards, and it just seemed to me that I didn't have the time or resources to effectively create like a barrier to stop them getting through. And you look at the enemy force and it is fucking overwhelmingly huge, and it gets there in no time, and if you don't have an effective strategy within 2 or 3 turns, you are overrun and you basically have to start over again. And I had to go to a guide for that one because I just didn't know what to build when. I didn't understand the mechanic, and this is much more to do with like AI manipulation, but Kanbei, who's the guy you're facing off against, he moves his normal tanks first in the sequence, and normal tanks, if they're up against a medium tank, won't attack from the AI's perspective if they're below a certain health point. So you need to basically manipulate it so that all the normal tanks are below this threshold of health, so that they'll go up to your medium tank but won't attack you, but will stay there so that nothing else can come and attack your medium tank, which means that you have an effective block at the bridge. And how the fuck I was ever supposed to figure that out on my own, I have no idea.
No, there's more ways to beat this map than just that.
You're
suggesting like there's only one set of things you can do to beat it, and I definitely disagree.
Honestly, to me, as someone who maybe a little out of their depth, like doing this map, I think it's pretty hard for an early on map in the game. It felt like there was a set sequence of events that I had to undertake, and obviously there will probably be other ways to tackle it, but like it really, put me in a spot where I was like, fuck, I don't know how to get out of this.
I think this map is basically about teaching you about bottlenecks precisely, and also...
Right, but I really think that if they're going to do that, they should teach you about how to do that in one of those tutorial missions, and then give you a harder version of it later.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the answer is, like, the best way, and this applies for almost all of Advance Wars, is, like, always use your long-range units first. Like, weaken as many units as possible, because then when you're fighting against weak units, you'll take less damage because they're weaker, obviously.
Right.
So
yeah.
it doesn't emphasize that perhaps enough in the first 10 learning missions. So that's like the crucial mechanic that this chapter is trying to just like force on you. And you're right, it is a tough chapter. But I tell you what, there are much tougher missions later on.
Thanks. That's really instilled confidence in me.
I really look forward to how you handle those. But
no, but I will say, like, as much as that stuff has been a little tough to deal with, I think that there have been just as many moments where I have been able to finish a map in a way that seemed unorthodox, in the sense that because they allow you to either take out all the enemies, and this is kind of the main mission objective, like in Fire Emblem the main mission objective is either to seize the throne or to kill all the enemies. Advance Wars seems to be like either kill all the enemies or take their main building, right? Like capture their main HQ.
Yeah.
And so there have been instances such as this one kind of Fog of War map where I basically go into it like guns blazing and don't fucking like strategize at all and lose a bunch of units, but I keep this one infantry guy, I have like one kind of tank next to him, and slowly and surely I shuffle my way across the map and get myself, but like hiding in areas, because you can do that in Fog of War, trying to find my way through, go passing a river, and then finally getting to the HQ, and having it because I'd kind of, drawn out all their units with my other guys and got destroyed, and they're kind of like stuck out there on the right-hand side, going all the way to the left and seizing the tower with 2 units left, and fucking basically no chance of doing it otherwise, but I still managed to like finish that mission my first time through, having kind of done it in a scrappier, more dirty way, instead of being kind of clinical about it. I like that Advance Wars offers you that option to be able to beat a map despite having maybe gone about it in a bit of a uncivilized way.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome like for that, and I agree. Like you can be so many units down, but if you can get a unit into a helicopter and get it to their HQ, you can win. And like it's so interesting when. So the factories and the ports and the airports and things.
Yeah.
Like it's so interesting when those are so far away from the HQ. So in effect, like they can move all their units away from their HQ and leave their HQ defenseless. That can always become really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's definitely missions in mission mode that like try to encourage you, like, oh, maybe you could go get their HQ like now. And I think that Fog of War one is suggesting that, and like there's other cool ones that do that, but like it's just cool because you're like there's just so many ways to skin a cat, and this game is just it's nice. I mean, what do you think of like aside from mechanics? Like, what do you think of the aesthetic, the music, the characters, the story? Are you just beyond all of it? It's like doesn't matter, because I do think the presentation of this game is really like quite nice and like quite quirky. It's very anime, but yeah.
I mean, it's as slick as a great GBA game always has been. Like it's always going to hold up because that sprite design is just really nice to look at, and it's very colorful. It pops pretty brightly, and yeah, I mean, story fucking I don't care. I've been a buttoning through it. It seems like the dialogue is kind of garbage, and I don't care about any of these characters. So it doesn't matter. It's not about that at all. It is clearly like it's a strategy game, it's maps, it's this, like, figure out what you've got to do, like, and, you have, obviously, the COs, which represent, like, the commanding officers and everything, who can use their powers and change things, and there have been certain guys who have used powers, which I thought were bullshit, like the guy who does the sniping one, which makes all of a sudden all of his long-range things...
Grit. Yeah, he's mental.
He's a fucking dick,
yeah.
is what he is. So is Kanbei. Kanbei is the biggest prick in the world.
Do you have a favorite unit? Do you have a favorite,
oh, God.
This is my favorite unit and I like monopolizing them the most, therefore, because I absolutely love mechs, because they're so versatile. They consistently move the same amount of distance regardless of whether it's forests or mountains or roads and rivers and things, which is really useful. And obviously they can, like I said, if you put them in the right place, they can take out tanks and stuff like that. And plus they're infantry, so you can like stick them in helicopters, and I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't been using mechs at all. And that's something that I learned from you, is I should probably pay more attention to them. They just seemed like, hey, this is a more expensive infantry. It's like, if I'm going to take a territory, why would I spend more money on an infantry thing if I can just take a territory with a normal infantry guy? Which was my thought process. No, for me, I think, like, I really like the medium tank, and obviously it's a fucking high-end unit, but it feels beefy as hell, and it fucking, like, steamrolls shit.
It feels good.
So that feels like, I don't know, it fits my playstyle a bit more, I think.
There are two ranks of tanks beyond that tank, like in later games. There's like large tanks, and then after that there's what's called neo tanks.
Oh God,
yeah, it goes a bit crazy, but
I'm sure it does. I'm sure Advanced Wars continues to go crazy. But no, like getting back to aesthetic and stuff, I think like the music is pretty much the same on every map, so that's cool.
The music is linked to the CO character, so if you're always using Andy, you'll always get the same music. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm kind of just sticking with him, so it's nice. It's a cool track. I think it's pretty good.
Bow, 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 bow. It's quite I like
it kind of gets in your head. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think maybe I'd like a bit more variety in terms of locations. It does seem like
it's one map set,
far more flagrant reuse of assets than even in Fire Emblem. Like it's
way more.
It's just like, here is your kind of grassy buildings. Like there's really not much else to deviate from it, and yeah, I think it doesn't really make a difference, because I don't think that's the core tenet of the game. Like, I think it needs to be kept simple and kept, like, obvious, because your focus is to know what everything does and what everything looks like, and to be able to execute on it. And so I think that it fits very well. And I'm sure, like, other games later on, like, make it look a bit nicer anyway. So, that's pretty much it. I think that's all my thoughts on.
Good luck for the end of that game. Good luck.
Thanks, I'm sure I'm going to need it. Thankfully, I have save states on Wii U, so if I fuck up at all, that's a possibility. I'll soldier on through, and I'll hopefully finish that for next time. Nice. That's going to be about it for our What We've Been Playing segment. We will be right back with you after this musical break with some of your emails, so don't go anywhere. We shall return.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It is personally my favourite time of the show. I don't know about you, MBZ, but I love a bit of listener emails.
Do you? I like the sound of my own voice.
Well, we have to let others share their thoughts and their voices.
Exactly.
Because
yes.
we live in a democracy, and it's important. So, if you believe in democracy and want to get your thoughts across to us, send in an email, please. Our email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That's thisnintendolife@gmail.com.
Also, if you don't live in a democracy, feel free to send stuff in anyway. Don't want to alienate our North Korean listenership, Bali.
Yes. North Koreans out there, thank you for listening. So our first email this week, so Mike T didn't say where he's from, so maybe he's North Korea, but we'll see. Yeah. So our first email is from Mike T. Hi guys, new listener and new owner of a Wii U. Great podcast and one I have now subscribed to. As a PS4 and PS3 owner, I recently felt a bit fatigued with video games in general. Don't get me wrong, last year was great, but I still felt something was missing. So I looked into the Wii U and decided to complement my gaming systems with some Nintendo goodness. So far, having a blast playing Wind Waker HD and smiling silly at the vibrant fun experiences offered by Yoshi's Woolly World and Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker. Okay, here's my topic for discussion. I have decided to try and only buy physical game discs, if at all possible, for my Wii U. My thinking is that when the NX is released, I'm hoping that it will take Wii U discs in a similar way that the Wii U takes Wii game discs, so that my investment in games is carried over to the next console, thus reducing the cost for only having the console for 1 year. That's if the NX comes out in 2016. Do you think the NX will play Wii U game discs, especially bearing in mind the new Zelda is going to be a Wii U game, which at the very least will ease the suffering of the longer-term Nintendo fans who would have had only 3 years lifespan from their Wii U? Or do you think Nintendo will opt for a digital-only console so they can sell us Wii U games digitally, even if we have a physical copy? All the best.
So I think our stances on this have been made somewhat clear in the past, but I think it's interesting to dig into maybe at a deeper level and some of this stuff. Bali, you've kind of long held the belief that because of this idea of potential remasters of old Wii U games, that the system will not be backwards compatible in terms of the physical disc stuff, at the very least, and as such we'll have to kind of rebuy newer versions of these games. You still kind of sticking to that?
Yes, I'm definitely sticking by the sort of the idea of collecting discs that will, for the Wii U that will work on the NX. I don't think will be the case. I think there'll be a physical cutoff. Digital's another matter. I definitely think that, like you could do from Wii to Wii U, with your Pikmin transferring all your save files and previous Virtual Console games and stuff. I think that will stay in place, and I might put my neck on the line here and say that might also be the case for digital versions of Wii U games. Let's say that maybe.
So yeah, that's the interesting thing that I wanted to get into is so we had that situation from Wii to Wii U where you could transfer all that stuff, but it would be in Wii mode, right? And I think it's harder to say that this time because I don't think that they're going to have a Wii U kind of subset within the NX hardware and within its design. So that notion of bringing stuff across, I don't think is going to be the same. And it makes me wonder, are they going to do this much more on an account basis because they know all the purchases you have and therefore can transfer across that way? The interesting thing is, even this generation with Microsoft and Sony, they haven't really taken all the digital stuff across. There are a lot of PSN, Xbox Live games that are kind of stranded on PS3 and 360. And I don't know if Nintendo are going to find a way to circumvent that. They could potentially, put all that stuff up digitally and make us rebuy it again. But then, people have already been burned by that. And for me, I think it actually did make sense to pay the minimal fee to upgrade to the Wii U version of each game, simply because of all the UI and interface stuff that it kind of allowed you to do. The gamepad play, the ability to have save states, to remap buttons, all of that stuff was really fantastic and a worthwhile addition. I don't think going forward to NX, there's much more they can actually do to improve that experience. So I think I will be a little annoyed if they say, hey, your copy of Super Metroid, you're going to have to pay for it again. Because really, they could, just take over the version from Wii U, that version that has save states, that has all that stuff in it, and say, no, this is your thing, you own it now, and you can continue to use it on this new console. It's just the logistics of that and whether that is possible.
And here's the other thing is like we've already talked previously that they've moved away from the brand of Virtual Console, and rather than Super Metroid being a Virtual Console game, they just call it a Super Nintendo game. They don't really associate the fact that it's an old game as making it unique. They just have games from Super Nintendo in the same way that they have a digital game like Shovel Knight, for example. They're not really dividing them. So I'm interested to see if we're gonna, and I really hope this isn't the case. I hope that they can launch I'm saying Virtual Console, I just mean let's call them classic games. I hope they can launch their library of classic games in one big block from launch. It would be absolutely devastating if they were going to have... We're still getting games trickled out even now. Like, when the NX launches, are we just going to get more trickle-out games? So it's like, oh, this week it's going to be Ocarina of Time, next week it's going to be Super Metroid, and it'll just take years to build up that collection again. And even if you have that upgrade system, like, we had to wait for every game in the series. In any games we had from our Wii Virtual Console, we had to wait for that game to come out on Wii U before we could pay the sort of, I think it's like £1, like you said, to upgrade it. So like, I just really hope that we don't get this trickle effect of classic games again. Like, it would just be so punishing.
It's a mistake they've made twice now. I don't know if they view it as a mistake or if the way that they roll out helps their sales at all. I don't know, because it does get to the point where, sure, you have people always excited for the new Virtual Console release, but then, like, how many people are you even kind of catering to with that? Because I think a lot of people have fallen off that wagon and are not really caring about that stuff anymore because of the sparse release calendar when it comes down to it. I think, they do need to, like, dig in and say, okay, all the stuff that was originally on the Wii, we need to get all of that stuff as soon as possible onto this new system and make it easy and let people get all the stuff that they already owned and not have them charged out the nose for it. They need to make it a much more user-friendly experience. I mean, like, Sony just put PS2 games on PS4, I think, with some, like, emulation stuff and trophies added and everything. And I think they dumped, like, a bunch at once. Like, they dumped, like, a good number of games, and I think they'll continue to add to that, but it's not the same trickle, I don't think, as what Nintendo does, and it really, I think it does well for them, but it's something that Nintendo need to figure out and whether they want to do that or not, and I think they need to start moving forward on some of these things and not being stuck so much in their old ways, and I'm very interested to see how they do it. The one other thing I want to bring up is the notion of backwards compatibility through using physical discs, but just using it as a registration option to say, I own this, in the way that Xbox One is now doing backwards compatibility, that you put in the Xbox 360 disc and it recognizes that and then goes and takes you to the digital storefront where you can then download it for free and remain with that thing on your system. I wonder if that is a possibility to not only not burn Wii U owners, but also make it viable for, like, people coming into the ecosystem late to still be able to go back and buy some of that old software and re-experience it anew. It's interesting, but then it would also go against the idea of the remaster stuff. So it's hard.
You're right, it would go against the remaster stuff, but I think you can do that without having a disk drive on the NX. And this is how, because my account that already exists, like right now, Ballyman91, my Miiverse account, that's linked to obviously like the eShop as well. It knows what discs I've played. Like, it's got a record on both, like, the activity log and in, like, the review section on the eShop and everything. So it's got, like, a list of games that I've played, whether they're digital or hard copy, like, all merged into one list. If that list in some way could be transferred to the NX and I can just get digital versions of all of them, regardless of whether they're digital or hard copy, the NX could still be backwards compatible and have, like you said, effectively reading the disc, but it wouldn't be reading the disc because it's just taking it from an existing list and giving you your full library back.
Well, see, the problem I have with that is when it comes to games that you don't own physically, such as someone you have borrowed a game from, or someone, or have you rented a game from somewhere. That's where that breaks down, unfortunately, and I think that's why Xbox does it the way they do, because they want to make sure that you physically own that disc and you have access to it.
So with the Xbox, once you've burnt it in a disk drive, someone else can't do that.
I don't know. I don't think that's how it works. I think it's just a ping to recognize that the disc exists. So potentially, yes, you could still rent those games and then put them in and go through the whole thing. But I think at that point, like 360 games generally are really cheap at this point anyway. It's like Wii U games have a bigger problem with that because not only is the system much younger, but also Nintendo games tend to hold their price far more than other console games and other third-party developer games do. So it's a tough problem to kind of work through, and I'm not sure where they'll land on it. But for certain, as he mentions as a possibility, do you think Nintendo will opt for digital only? No fucking way. They are, if out of all of the manufacturers tied to retail, probably the strongest. I think they'll continue to do that, but I doubt that digital only will be the way forward, even if it's possible, even if you want to personally go digital only, which I know, Bally, you've expressed in the past wanting to potentially do that. So
yeah, maybe. I mean, I think whatever happens, someone's going to be pretty unhappy with what they do, because there's too many groups wanting different things, and Nintendo do try to please everyone often, but I think they could get burned heavily this time, so we'll see.
They could indeed. All right, let's move on to the next email then.
So our next email is from Z, who has a number of points. I've been listening to your podcast for the past 2 weeks and like to say that I really enjoy it and keep it up. So he's got a list of questions, topics, and rants. So I'm just going to read them off one by one, and we're going to react to them instantly, I think.
All right.
So, number 1. Imagine if Studio Ghibli started making exclusive Nintendo games like Ni no Kuni. Your thoughts?
Well, Studio Ghibli did make an exclusive Nintendo game called Ni no Kuni on the DS, and then they promptly decided to move it to the PS3, where it sold a bunch more copies and was localized for the West. So, yeah. I think it'd be cool if they worked with Nintendo. I think as companies, they both have similar sensibilities. I question now with their partnership with Sony whether that will potentially happen or not. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure Nintendo are in a long list of a long queue to work with people and companies to work with Studio Ghibli because of sort of the recognition they have, especially with games like Ni no Kuni. So I think it's unlikely. It would be cool, but so who knows?
Yeah.
Nintendo signs Kojima, maybe. Wink, wink.
Well, this email was sent before the whole Kojima stuff was resolved. I don't think they would work well together. Honestly, I don't think Nintendo and Kojima would make a good partner. So I think it's great that he's doing stuff with Sony. So good luck to him, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have anything to add. So
okay.
Next point. Why can't Nintendo create a simple universal account system across all its platforms? Why do I need to type a 12-digit code just so I can add a friend?
Well, you don't need to do that on Wii U, but I'm sure that they're not going to do that anymore because everyone hates it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they fixed it with the Miiverse. You can just add them simply. Universal account to link its platforms. I think we've talked in depth in the past about that. I think it's going to happen, but we've just got to wait and see.
Yeah.
Is Linkle a teaser?
A teaser for what?
A teaser. Yeah, no, where is this going? Do we think Linkle will be in the Wii U version? How about that? I think that might be what.
Is he trying to say? Is Linkle a tease? Is she trying? Is she a? I don't know.
Is she a tease in that, like, was her appearance a one-off thing, or is she?
No, I was saying, is she a tease? You know,
well, we're gonna have a long discussion about censorship at some point.
Okay.
So I'm sure you can slip that into that conversation.
Okay, all right.
But for now, what are your thoughts on Linkle for the future?
I think she's a tease, Bally.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Well, I was going to say, I think She is a tease, and I don't think she'll appear in the Wii U version of Zelda, and that she was a one-off for what is that game even called? It's not coming to my head.
Hyrule Warriors Legends
Hyrule
3DS
Warriors.
Crazy Banter Edition.
Crazy Banter Edition. So yeah, I think she might be a one-off, but we'll see. Nintendo, why do you not allow indie game developers to make games for you? Gamepad equals creativity.
Well, I mean, indie game developers do make games for Nintendo platforms. They don't make games for Nintendo, I guess, themselves. But
yeah,
there are a few games that use the gamepad creatively. There's Affordable Space Adventures is a notable one recently.
Definitely.
Little Inferno's cool. That uses the gamepad pretty well. Yeah, there's a few out there. So I don't know. You need to pay more attention to indie developers on Nintendo.
Yeah, we've talked about loads of indie games on
Indeed.
this show, so definitely go back and listen to those episodes. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there is one that will satisfy you. Right.
Yeah.
Sims, gamepad, question mark.
I mean, I guess the Sims game. Oh, but do you remember Bally on Wii?
My
It's a
Sims.
game, My Sims, that I bought. Did you get it as well?
I definitely did not, MBZ, because that game
Okay.
looked terrible.
It was fun. I
No.
made a Ho-Oh fridge. It was good.
It
The
was
Ho-Oh
not
fridge is rad.
good.
I liked it a lot.
I think because of that game, and I'm sure it sold fine, but I think after that, EA must be burned with The Sims and Nintendo, because I
Yeah.
think...
I don't know, I thought it did quite well.
That's what I'm saying, but the Wii U didn't, and therefore they probably
Right.
thought, yeah.
I mean, a
we'll
Sims
do
style, like
something else.
SimCity mainly, probably, like, that style of game would work brilliantly for the gamepad, you know? Like,
Oh,
that kind of
definitely.
city builder stuff would be wonderful. It's just the problem is, like, those developers far rather would go to PC and kind of champion their base there rather than kind of taking a risk on a Wii U game that likely wouldn't sell that well. But I do think that it's a missed opportunity, unfortunately, that like a lot of those games could potentially be great on that system, but hampered, unfortunately, by no sales. So,
What do you think of the idea of Nintendo partnering with Telltale Games and having them make games for franchises such as Samus, Mario, or maybe Pokemon?
so I want to dig into this one a little bit more because I think it's really interesting to consider what Telltale, as a very narrative-focused and driven company, would do potentially with Nintendo IP, which traditionally is not super narrative-focused. I also bring up the point of Detective Pikachu because, from all accounts, people are saying that game is kind of Telltale-like and interesting in the fact that it has a lot of voice acting in it. Not only that, but Pikachu is literally a man, so that's very curious. I think that, like, take a franchise which is generally more story-based from a Nintendo perspective, like Metroid or Zelda. I think either of those could work quite well. I think an episodic kind of game based around those universes, with Telltale kind of taking their own spin on it, would be really interesting. Like, I don't think it even necessarily has to be about those characters. I don't think Samus needs to make an appearance or Link is the main hero. Like, I think you could tell an interesting story about, like, Hyrule or, you know, the Metroid universe from the perspective of an outsider, of someone else observing. And I think that's the sort of thing that worked fantastically with Tales from the Borderlands, where they have this established universe and they have these hero characters, but they are kind of on the periphery, and Telltale are allowed to kind of create their own characters and do their own thing. And personally, I think Telltale are at their best when they're not hamstrung by characters of an IP. Like, I'm still playing through that Game of Thrones game, and it's definitely not grabbing me as much. And I think it's because they are very much tied to the storyline of what happens in that show and that book, and also the characters that appear within it. And I think that if they're kind of given a bit more free reign, they can run with it and take it into some really interesting places. So I would really be down for them to kind of partner with Telltale and do something exclusive. Obviously, Telltale kind of thrive on the fact that they do multi-platform games and they kind of push stuff on PC and mobile pretty extensively. Be fascinating, though, if they could like put out a game on Nintendo, but also on mobile because of Nintendo's like new mobile thing that they're doing. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Is the Minecraft Telltale game on Wii U?
Yes, it is. It just recently came out. I don't think all the episodes are there, though, unfortunately. It's a really weird situation where, like, episodes 1 to 4 are already out, and yet they've just released episode 1 on Wii U, and I have no idea why that is. Maybe that was the only one they had finished, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, at the very least, we now have precedent for a Telltale game being on Wii U, so there is the possibility there.
No, absolutely, and yeah, I agree. Nintendo have an absolute wealth of universes and characters and stories to be told, so I think it would be interesting. I was going to make the argument that perhaps Telltale games aim at quite not a mature audience, but an older audience than the universal appeal of something like a Mario or a Zelda. But I think the fact that Minecraft has made Telltale have made a Minecraft game maybe goes against that. So who knows? I think it would be more suited to something like Metroid, let's say, in terms of an age bracket, because I think maybe making a Telltale game that is in the Mushroom Kingdom universe with Mario that sort of has an interesting story that satisfies all age groups is quite a tricky thing to do. And obviously, I don't know, a company like Pixar or someone is very good at that. But whether Telltale can do that to a universe like Mario to appeal to lots of age groups, that could be pretty difficult. But who knows?
Yeah, I think that's maybe the problem they've run up against with the Minecraft game. Is I've heard good things about it, but I've also heard that it's very kid-focused. That it kind of
and that's just because that's itself. The main Minecraft audience. So that I would worry that if they went for a Nintendo franchise that appealed to younger gamers as well as older gamers like a Mario, that it could be difficult to tick the boxes for all those age groups.
Yeah, I think Pokemon's the least likely to happen because the Pokemon company kind of do all that stuff on their own, a lot of the spin-offs and just all that stuff. I actually think that a great candidate would be Star Fox, honestly. Like they're all very kind of goofy, fun characters. It feels like they could take a hold of that and do some really fun stuff in the Star Fox universe, like very kind of not super serious, and just I don't know. It seems like a good fit to me.
Yeah, definitely. Those are characters that have a very distinctive voice and setting, and they've all got a bit of backstory actually and stuff like that they have built up through the games. So that would be a good shout. You're right.
I'd probably much rather play that than an actual Star Fox game. Yeah.
Our final question this week is from Peter, who's from Georgia, as in the American one, not the one on the state. The state of Georgia, not the one next to Russia. Let's put it that way.
Okay, right, yeah.
Dear Bally and MBZ, I recently saw MBZ post on Twitter that he's beaten over 50 games last year. This strikes me as a staggering number. I'm sure Bally has also played through an impressive number of games. With so many great games available and so many big ones on the horizon, how do you guys go about arranging your queue in order to keep things fresh and avoid getting burnt out? Do you have a certain method of deciding what to prioritize, which games to pair with each other, and what genres to cycle through? Also, in the world of flash sales, bundles, and easy access to retro games, do you have any particular approach to keeping your backlogs under control? Thanks as always for putting on a great show. Peter, who's at CapsuleJ on Twitter, from Georgia, USA.
All right. This we can take in two different things, I think. I think first we'll kind of tackle how we kind of decide what games to play next and kind of balancing genres. As he said, yes, I beat 52 games last year, which is it's a lot of things, it's pretty heavy. And I think generally I was kind of well balanced overall in terms of the genre pickings. But do you have a way that you kind of decide in a queue what you play next?
Definitely. Like, I have amassed a backlog. That backlog has been dwindling at a very healthy rate since we started this podcast. And the fact that we've been going with this podcast for so long already hints at how long my backlog is, and it keeps getting bigger. So,
well, I mean, a lot of it, there's still some stuff like that you've kind of cut out and have said, I'm kind of leaving that and not going back to it. But yeah, I mean, this is like a childhood of games, essentially, that we kind of had but never went back and finished. A lot of stuff, anyway.
Yeah, definitely a lot of stuff. And I make a point that I don't just want to always play the hotness, and I don't always want to just buy a new game, play that, buy another new game, play that. I just think that's an absolute waste when you have games that are in your backlog. So I really try to make a point of I try to mix up short games with long games. I made the mistake of sort of tackling Fire Emblem Awakening at the same time as Xenoblade X, which was a mistake. I definitely think that's a mistake. I think it would have been better just to focus on one of those, which is what I in effect did with Fire Emblem, because I decided, right, I'm going to put one of these games to the side. I started Fire Emblem first, so I thought, right, Xenoblade to the side, let's finish Fire Emblem, then get onto Xenoblade later. And like, I do like to mix it between short and long games. I don't, like I said, I don't like playing new games back to back. I like to always stick an old game in there. So yeah, just sort of something older that's been in my backlog a long time. I don't always play. I don't just take the easy. What am I trying to say? I don't always just take the low-hanging fruit. I want to say. I don't just play the game I like the most in my backlog. I will purposefully play a game that's been sitting in my backlog for too long that I bring to the front, play it, and then play the game that I want to play more after. Now that may sound mad.
It's like eating your vegetables before your
exactly.
dessert is
It's
allowed.
Eating your vegetables. Everyone eats their vegetables. No one wants to eat their vegetables, but it's good for you. And in the same way, it's good for you to finish your backlog because you're not wasting games. It's good for me to finish my backlog for the podcast, to talk about games that are outside of my realm of games I would normally play, to not always talk about games that are amazing, to sometimes talk about games that are like average or below average, and that certainly has happened when I go back to my backlog sometimes. But yeah, I do like to make a queue. I even sort of arrange the icons, if they're digital games, on my Wii U or my 3DS into like a line, and then the one I'm playing is the one nearest to the left, and then as it goes to the right, I've got the games I'm going to play in the future, and I'll arrange that queue and get it all in order, which is maybe a bit OCD, but I do get satisfaction from that. And obviously me and MBZ are both on Backloggery, which is a fantastic website where you can log all your games and keep a nice log on what you're playing, what you're going to play next, and what you've already beaten.
If you can tell, Bally is quite meticulous when it comes to this stuff.
Quite.
Yeah, no, for sure you are. I feel like I'm a bit more chilled when it comes to like deciding what I want to play. It's very much an amorphous, like, I look at all my platforms, and for me, I have much more breadth to kind of, look and wade through than Bally does. He's very kind of narrowed to like Nintendo stuff, 3DS and Wii U currently, right? Mm. And I just kind of look at like my Steam and I'm like, well, this was in a sale 3 years ago that I bought. Maybe I should get to that now. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. But I think also something that I use quite frequently is a website called How Long to Beat, which is it's very useful. It's kind of crowdsourced, but it lets you know like the length or the general length of any game that's been released. It's kind of, the community says like this long if you do 100%, this long if you just want to rush through it and all that stuff. And I think that's useful when you're deciding, I need something quick to beat before the end of the year so that I can finish this 52 game challenge. And that's why I ended up playing Costume Quest at the end of last year, was because I was in London and I needed something that would run on my laptop. And, I'd spent most of December playing like over 50, 60 hours of Xenoblade, but having still not beaten it, unfortunately, at that time. And I was like, I need something quick to finish off. And Costume Quest popped up on my Steam and I was like, oh, I wonder how long that is. And it's like, oh, it's only like 4 hours. So I was like, okay, perfect. I'll play this in London. I'll beat it. And that'll be a nice thing. It's this sense of achievement, I think, in finishing games. And I think sometimes if you get too caught up in playing long games for a consistent period of time, then you never feel like you're actually making any progress, right? And I think that's kind of key to beating games into pushing through your backlog is to always be finishing something. Like, no matter what it is, just make sure that it's kind of ticking over, and that gives you kind of the motivation to keep going and move on to other stuff. But yeah, I feel like I also kind of get into phases of a certain style of game that I want to keep playing at that point in time. I think at the moment I'm kind of in a strategy vibe. Like, I finished SteamWorld Heist, I've got Advance Wars on the go now, I'm thinking of playing Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions next up, like, and then we've got Fire Emblem Fates coming out, like, whenever it fucking comes out in Europe. God damn, it's driving me insane. But, like, at the moment, yeah, I'm kind of vibing on strategy stuff, so I'm just going to keep going with a few of these and see how it feels. But then, you know, I don't want to play those for ages, so I'm going to kind of take a break with another game, like maybe throw a platformer in there. Like, I haven't played a platformer in a really long time. Looking back at my backlog, and, you know, I've been playing Undertale, SteamWorld Heist, Her Story, Xenoblade, Sybil, Costume Quest. Like, it's been, like, Axiom Verge, I guess, is the last platformy style game I played, but even that is more of, you know, a shooter, a Metroid style thing. So it's always about, like, balance and making sure you kind of throw something different in there. And it also helps to kind of just, like, broaden your palette with different genres you've never tried. And also stuff that I just don't regularly play. And I've been thinking recently about the kind of the PC, not necessarily strategy, but, like, you know, like Civilization and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like city builders and that kind of stuff.
Definitely strategy.
Yeah, it's like kind of more grand strategy, I guess, but it's a very different style of game.
4X strategy.
4X, right. And I've been thinking, oh man, I don't know, Alex Navarro talked recently on the Beastcast about how he's put, like, hundreds of hours into Civilization 5, and he talked about how none of those games really worked for him before until Civ 5 came along. And I'm thinking, oh man, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I should try, like, Civ 5 at some point. I actually, funnily enough, there was a Humble Bundle, which kind of leads into the next topic, recently, that had the original XCOM, not the original XCOM, but XCOM Enemy Within, which was the reboot that came out in 2012, of which the sequel has just been released. XCOM 2 just came out, like, last week, I think, or this week. And in that bundle, there was a copy of Civilization 3. So I have, like, that game. It's on my Steam. I could play that, but I kind of want to play, like, the better version, you know, so that I don't, like, get a bad experience and get turned off the genre. So, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like, I go through phases, but then I'm just jumping from one thing to another. Like, from Undertale to Rise of the Tomb Raider to Advance Wars. Like, you can't really get much different than those three things, right? So,
yeah.
It's definitely diversity helps a lot in kind of being like, give me different experiences. So
Flash sales, bundles, easy access to retro games. What are your tips, MBZ?
So, I don't really abide by any tips. My one tip is, do I want to play this game at some point in my life? And if the answer is yes, and it's a good price, then generally I will just buy it then and there. And I understand that that creates the problem of the backlog, but I know that when I'm spending money on a game, that it's something that I care enough about that I'm going to get to it. And that may be in a few years' time, but if it's a good price, then I think it's worth doing it at that juncture. Now, there are times when this has burned me, such as I bought Valkyria Chronicles in the Christmas Steam sale, and there was a Steam sale like a week ago where it was like £1.20 cheaper, which, you know, you can argue either way.
£1.20.
Like, yeah, I know, but, you know, like, you can argue like, okay, I'm technically, like, giving the developer more money so they make more stuff, better PC ports and everything. But then it's like, oh, I haven't even touched it yet. So, and yeah, that's another game. That's another strategy game, Valkyria Chronicles, which I want to get to. So yeah, it's turning out to be a very strategy year for me. But yeah, you know, Humble Bundles are so cheap that it's like, why wouldn't you? Like, why wouldn't you just take that opportunity right in front of you? And I think, Bally, sales happen on Nintendo stuff, but it's not as frequent, and generally they're not as good deals as you get on PC. Which means that, yeah, you don't really bite on them as frequently. And if you do, you generally know that, like, the stuff that you want stays either at a price or will probably go a little cheaper in the long run.
Yeah, and I have a watch list on sort of the 3DS and Wii U eShops, and I do look out for sales, and more often than not, if they are on sale, I'll pick it up, and then it just slides into the backlog, and that's a game that I'll play at some point in time. But I've mentioned this before, but I am actually really close. Even if you check my backlog already, this backs it up. But I am really close to beating my backlog. And like you said, the access to retro games and sort of eShop games and cheaper, smaller games, I'd love to get into a position where I don't have a backlog and all I'm playing are retro games I'm picking up on the day and playing and able to just buy and play straight away. And play indie games I can buy and play straight away, and then buy, the big AAA's titles that come out every now and then throughout the year. So I'd love to get in a position where that's all I'm playing and I can literally just dive into things and be more free, I feel, because a backlog and the way I do it is definitely quite rigid. And as much as I like that, it can be quite frustrating, but it's still, I sound like I'm harming myself, and I don't mean to sound like that because ultimately these are games I do want to play and are good to talk about for the podcast. And
Absolutely.
They're a lot of the games I'm playing are classics, so they have to be played. So I might as well play them now, and then I can play the new stuff later. And
I think it's also going to be interesting because I feel like it frees you up to kind of dive into stuff that I haven't played. I think a lot of your backlog is a result of me telling you what to play and you building that up and then going for it. And I think it's kind of cool, a future where you go out there and you're like, I want to play this weird GBA game that came out that I was vaguely interested in, but the Lordnbz hasn't played.
Here's a retro game neither of us have played. I've not got anything else to play because my backlog is clear.
Yeah,
I'm going to play it and I'm going to talk about it on the show and go from there. And I think that'll be a nice place to get to.
Absolutely, and we'll probably be there quite soon. So that'll happen.
So that's all the emails. As I said at the top of the segment, our email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That's thisnintendolife@gmail.com. Keep your emails coming. We always need more. I know we say that every time, but honestly,
I think we're actually running a little low now.
We are running low.
Now would be the time to pull the trigger. Also, we'd really like to hear from people who've never written in before. That's always great. So if you're a first-time not first-time listener, if you've been listening for a while and you haven't written in, first-time writer, one might say, then, don't be afraid. Go ahead and send us an email. We always like to hear from you. So we are going to move on swiftly to the next segment, so don't go anywhere. We shall return very soon. Alright everyone, welcome back to the third and final part of the show. This week, we return to a good old favourite segment. It is of course, the Jukebox, where Bally and I play some video game music and test each other's skills. Now, Bally, I believe last time it was you who tested me, if that's correct.
Yes, it was episode 46, so quite a while ago, and I was listening back to it, Emblem. You were really close on all of them. But
yeah, I remember being like nearly there on every single time.
But you only got 1 out of 5. So
yeah, it was bad.
It was bad. I thought my choices were quite tough, but let's see how we do this time.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know the segment or is a new listener and has no idea what we're talking about, the Jukebox is a segment in which we play some music from some video games and we test each other. So I am the person who's in control this time. We'll play 5 songs. They're all from different games. We'll play a song, we'll listen to it, and then I'll ask Bally to guess it. This time, I've actually implemented some hint questions. So here's what's going to happen. There are 5 hint questions, 1 for each song, which is there to kind of help you out if you need it. So Bally is going to listen to the song and then decide whether he wants some help, which he probably will need because I've been a bit of a dick this time. So I've got hint questions lined up. If he uses the hint question, then he doesn't get the full point. Let's say half points if you use the hint question and get it correct. And if you don't use the hint question and you do get it correct, then we'll ask it to you as a bonus. And you can get bonus points for getting the hint questions right after the fact. So maybe a little bit more complicated this time, but I thought it would be good so that I can dig into a little bit more tough selections here and help you with some questions instead.
I think we should also mention that we've solidified a couple of rules. So this time we're making sure, and this is now officially the rule, is that we're never going to use songs from video games that we've already used. So any video game that's been done in the past, we're not going to go back. So that sort of helps us work out what's left. And also, as sort of in conjunction with that rule, it's not necessarily any more games that I've played, but at least games I have played or know of. And that rule might be a bit vague, but I'm sure MBZ, you've been pretty reasonable in giving me something that I'll hopefully have at least a chance of getting.
Well, I'll tell you this week at least you've played all these games, so
okay, fair enough.
That should stay pretty simple for the moment.
Oh.
It's just for the future,
for the future.
Episode 379 when we're running out of songs to use.
And one day we can just clean slate it. I'm sure it's that can be eventually.
Sure, who knows? It's all up in the air.
This is only the 5th time we've done this, so let's go.
It is. So without further ado, Bally, let's put on the first song. Unfortunately, not the greatest audio quality on that track, but let me say I had a hard time finding any music, so that's what we've got. So, Bally, any ideas popping into your head right now?
Wow. There's so many elements of that are very familiar, but I'm struggling to I'm feeling Star Fox. I'm also feeling Kirby, but it sounded sounds like a blend of the two in some ways. I mean, this is weird.
Is the hint question required, Bally?
Hit me with a hint.
All right, so here is a hint question. What did the player have to do in order to access the single-player portion of this game?
Oh, God. Ah! I think I have it.
All right, what's your guess, Bally?
And this is interesting because I think that this game there was some link to Star Fox with this game in the way that it was developed or something, I believe. But this is the free-to-play Sub Wars.
What's the full
3DS.
title of this game?
Oh God! Don't you dare! Right, here we go. Right, it's Sub Wars, like...
That's not even the franchise. That's the subtitle you're giving me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The original game was on the 3DS. It was a launch game.
Oh, Steel Diver Sub Wars.
There we go.
Yes.
I'm really surprised you actually managed to do that, even with the hint question.
Thank you.
I thought that would be a little tougher, but good one. Well, managed to pick that out. That was definitely one that I thought, like, hey, this will be a bit of a bullshit tricky thing. If I throw this in here without a hint question, I think I'll have no hope in hell. But yeah, that is Steel Diver Sub Wars.
I think I stuck it in my backloggery, so that's fair enough.
Yeah, well, I did go through your backloggery to help me with these selections, so it's always a good resource to use.
Cool. Well, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, do you remember much about Steel Diver Sub Wars? As far as I recall, like, this game was something that you played a lot more than I did, and it was just, like, it was hard for me to get my head around. I didn't really enjoy it, but you certainly dove, should we say, straight into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have much I wanted to play at the time, and I thought, hey, free-to-play game, why not give it a go? And I think it's fair enough to try and play any free-to-play game as long as it's not something like I don't know, some of that Pokemon garbage that's been popping up. I think it's always worth giving it a go, and I kind of got a bit hooked on it. It was like a really slow motion first person shooter, effectively, where you had a jetpack is what it felt like, and I gelled with it quite well, actually. I don't know why. I remember unlocking all the single player missions that you get for free, and trying them all out, playing some guys online. I believe I played it for like a few days back to back, and then very quickly the difficulty was just ramping up in terms of the opposition online. And then after that, I sort of said, well, I've had my time with it, I've had my fun, but I thought it was interesting. It's always nice to see Nintendo try something new, and yeah, I dug it.
This was their first free-to-play game, actually. It was the first one that they kind of experimented with. And it was an interesting experiment, I think, because... So, to answer the question, what did the player have to do to access the single-player portion of this game, what did they have to do, Bally?
I think it was something like just play online once or something. I can't even remember.
No, you actually had to pay for the single-player of this game. You actually had to go there and put money down to access the single-player missions.
You get a few missions for free.
I think like there's some practice stuff you get for free, but I believe the single player missions were locked behind a paywall, and also some of the online stuff in terms of like some different ships and stuff were definitely locked behind that.
I had about 45 minutes of the single player, I'd say.
Okay.
In terms of like, and you're right, it's just practice and tutorials and stuff, but I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, no, it's totally one of those weird games that you just completely forget about if you didn't kind of mention it again. But here we are mentioning it.
I remember you were playing Titanfall at like the same time.
Really? Ah.
Yeah, it was around that time because I remember we were joking like we were both playing first-person shooters.
Interesting. I don't remember.
One was faster than the other.
Yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I don't recall the music really standing out in this game. This was the main menu theme that we just used there. And I don't remember if there was anything aside from atmospheric noises and stuff in the ocean.
I think that helped me actually in guessing that song because there was basically one song to associate with that game. So
yeah. All right. Well, I think that we'll leave it there for Steel Diver Sub Wars. Let's move on to the second choice with our second song. pretty chilled out track, I'd like to say there. Nice one on the ears.
Yeah. This is a game I've not played in a long time, and I actually skipped out on the 3DS version of this game, but I'm gonna go with Mario Golf Toadstool Tour on the Nintendo GameCube.
That is correct. Well done, Bally. Was
Thank
it anything
you.
in particular that gave that away to you?
I think you maybe underestimate the number of hours I put into that game, but I
Maybe,
don't know. That's
yeah. I
just...
mean, I even tried to choose like a course that wasn't like a mainline one. This was Cheap Falls with this track.
Yeah.
I noticed like in the soundtrack these kind of birds that started like tweeting about, and I didn't know if that was something that was consistent throughout all of the music, because I listened to a couple of tracks and I heard those birds in both of them, so I was wondering if that was like a little tell, like as part of the soundtrack of this game, that you'd always have these birds kind of like about the golf course and making noises.
Yeah,
So
I would definitely argue that all the songs have a similar style. Maybe apart from a couple of the late game courses, which are sort of, I don't know, Bowser Castle themed and things, but yeah, it is quite a distinctive sounding game, and it's very grand sounding. And I mean, I did miss out on the 3DS Mario Golf, but I mean, having missed out on that one, I'd be interested to see where the series goes, because I know that 3DS one, by pretty much all accounts, was an improvement on the GameCube one. I mean, had great online stuff. It did far better than Mario Tennis on Wii U. So like Camelot can obviously still do it.
oh yeah, apparently the Mario Golf game on 3DS is fantastic. Like Greg Miller always goes on about how he played it for like 90 hours, and when he was at IGN, they'd like every morning in the office they'd have like a tournament, and all that online stuff is apparently great. There was a bunch of apparently excellent DLC for it. Like it is supposed to be a smashing package. So yeah, if you ever feel the pull to go for a Mario Golf game again, I think the 3DS one is probably the best port of call.
And I actually played a ton of multiplayer with this game with my cousins.
Oh, really?
So cousins who are like the same age as me, I should add. So back when we were, 13, 14, 15, we played a ton of this at like the holidays when they'd come round, and we'd play tons of video games, and this was a real favorite. And we'd sort of ban ourselves from, there's like, what do you call it? You can like put people off by pressing buttons, and stuff appears on the screen.
Oh, really?
But like occasionally one of us would just like hit an absolutely cracking like eagle or a chip in or a long putt. Or I think my cousin might even have almost got a hole in one once, and we were just like going wild. It was just, yeah, such a good time. I really do like Mario Golf, and it's something I'd hopefully get back to at some point, because I mean I do like quite a lot of real life golf, both to watch and play.
Yeah, it's a genre and series that I've never really got into. All of these kind of Mario side sports stuff are really your arena. You've always been a fan of those games and always championed them. So yeah, I never really played that much of Toadstool Tour at all, if any of it. Like I think maybe once or twice, but I don't know.
It's a hard sell. Like golf games aren't something you can just pick up and play. You got to have a little bit of. It's quite nuanced, I guess.
Do you have any fond memories of the music in this game, or do you think it's just kind of osmosis, like you just kind of know it all from playing it for hundreds of hours and that kind of thing?
It is osmosis, I agree, but I still think the music is quite good. I think it suits what this game sets out to do.
I do feel like a lot of these kind of Mario spin-off games give off a similar vibe in terms of the music.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like it's very kind
definitely.
of the sort of chill Mario Party board music feel it gave to me as well. So yeah, I don't know. I think that like there's kind of a certain signature with that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it suits the game well. So yeah.
Yeah, all relaxed, all about chilling on a golf course. So. Well, good stuff, Bally. Before we move on, let's actually ask you the hint question here.
Sure.
See if you can get a bonus point.
Go for it.
By connecting the GBA version of this game, what feature did the player receive?
Oh God. I never owned the Game Boy Advance version, but I would guess that you can like cross over your player because the GBA version is RPG based, so I think you can cross over your player and use that player in the GameCube version.
You are 100% correct. Transferring character data is what you could do. So give you a bit of a bonus point there, Bally, which will be a feather in your cap. So 2 songs down, 3 points in the bag. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's go into some different territory here with our third song. Bit more upbeat this time.
Wow.
Yeah, a bit of a heavier
This
tune.
is tough. This is tough.
I have to tell you, the hint question might not help you either. It's quite hard, so you may be in a little bit of a bad situation.
I'm hearing electric guitars. You know, I'm wanting to say stuff like Sonic. You know, I've got
interesting.
a few Sonic games in my backlog. But you know, Sonic games normally have a ton of lyrics with them, and this didn't have any.
That's true. Yeah, usually we have. I can't remember the name of what's the band? The Sonic. I asked this question in a Fire Emblem video the other day, and someone told me, and I've already forgotten the name of the band that does the Sonic songs.
I can't remember their name either. I'm wanting to say it's like if it's not Sonic, it's something that's at least a similar genre to Sonic.
Okay.
And I want to say it's like something on my GameCube.
All right.
I have played all these games, so I don't know, maybe it's N64. I was also getting like a superhero vibe, like a real classic comic kind of.
Yeah,
sound.
You're right. It does kind of give that off.
But
actually.
I've not really played any classic comic games. All the superhero games I've played have been based on films, I want to say. So
yeah.
This is getting out of hand, Lordnbz.
Are you ready for the hint question? Have you gone to the end of your tether?
Hit me with a hint.
Okay. In 2003, Sega filed a lawsuit against Fox Interactive, Electronic Arts, and Radical Entertainment, claiming that this game was infringing the patent of what Sega property?
Right, well, Sonic's doing something with this game. So it's not Sonic because Sega annoyed that they're copying Sonic. So who copied Sonic in 2003 and did I play it? GameCube's looking like a strong shout for that time period. I'll definitely say that. So, I give up.
All right. Well, the correct answer is Simpsons Road Rage.
I was nowhere near that, but like my sort of internal memory is now remembering that very, very clearly. That's interesting.
Yeah, so this game came out, I guess, 2003, and it was a precursor to, I think, what is the superior game, which is Simpsons Hit and Run. This was
Definitely.
like just a car driving game, if I remember correctly, right?
It's Crazy Taxi with a Simpsons theme.
Right, and in saying that, you've kind of inadvertently answered the hint question, because the answer is that
Crazy Taxi.
Crazy Taxi was the property that Sega filed a lawsuit for.
Fair enough.
So there you go.
Of course, Sega made... That's so funny. Sega made Crazy Taxi. I thought it was Sonic. I was like, oh, yeah. But no, my biggest problem with this game and answering this question is that I was guilty of only playing one map again and again and again, trying to beat my high score.
So I guess like you have one song that's stuck in your head, and I probably chose the wrong one.
Yeah, I want to say this wasn't that song, but At the same time, I did play all the tracks. I think I completed it. If you can call this a game you can complete, I can't really remember. I sunk so much time. Again, I think this is a game you probably underestimate how many hours
absolutely.
I
don't
I
really
played
recall.
way too much. And like friends of ours, like Charlie, had this game on PlayStation 2. I played it tons at his house, and I remember him playing this game. Yeah, good game. Good pick, but as you say, Hit and Run was just the superior game in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of the GTA evolution there, where you can get out the car and actually jump around and do stuff in the environment. And I don't know, I felt like Road Rage probably just suited you at the time much more than it would have suited me because it's just a pure driving game.
I want to say this was a GameCube launch game.
Was it that early?
Not,
That seems kind of crazy.
Really, like if not, it's really early. It did not come out because Crazy Taxi definitely was a GameCube launch game, and this was not far behind. I want to say it was in the window between launch and Smash Brothers, but
oh wow,
I might be wrong. But anyway, yeah, cool, good
All
pick,
right.
good pick. Tough stuff.
Yeah,
tough stuff.
I told you, I'm getting deep here. I'm going for those
boy.
deep cuts.
Oh God.
So it's getting tricky, but. I don't know. I actually, it's fun to kind of like make up these hint questions because I was like, oh no, I didn't know that about like Sega filing the lawsuit at Crazy Taxi. So, yeah, very interesting stuff. Yeah, let's move on then to the fourth track, to the fourth song, to the fourth game. I can hear you stressing out, Bally, over
I
this
am
song.
stressing out, MBZ, because this is like I'm gonna want to kill a man when I find out like what this song is.
So is it hitting that kind of recognizable?
Oh God, it is destroying it. It is like it is taking that. This is the definition of like that song that's just ingrained in your mind.
And it's on the tip of your tongue, I guess.
Oh my God. I mean, I originally thought like Spyro Season of Ice back in the GBA. There's like twinkles and things like that. And then I was just like, it's Mario. No, it's Zelda. It's Mario. No, it's Zelda.
You know, listening to that in isolation without knowing what it is, it gave me very kind of like JRPG vibes. But
it's not a JRPG.
you
but
know, yeah, obviously because you haven't really played any. So
yeah, it's like, oh good God, oh my God.
there's very light tones there. It feels like a very kind of floaty, very light, airy kind of feel to it.
Oh God.
Bally,
Hit me with a hint.
okay, you sound like a man who needs a hint question.
I'm gonna kill someone. Honestly, this is bad.
So, here is your hint question. According to director Hiroyuki Kimura, this game was originally planned to be designed for the Nintendo GameCube as part of what Iwata-associated classic NES franchise?
Oh my God, I wanted to say Pikmin for a second there as well, but
All
then
right.
that doesn't fit in with the clue. So like,
Well-
I'm just gonna have to go with like something on Wii.
All right.
I'm gonna say Mario Galaxy, like 1.
Okay, Mario Galaxy 1, an
not
admirable,
that, but-
an admirable choice. You probably couldn't be further from the truth. This game is the DS classic Yoshi Touch and Go.
Oh my
So, do you want to like go ahead and have a go at the hint question then? Because that may be something you could figure out.
Oh, is it based on Balloon Fight?
It is. Yes, it is indeed. It's Balloon Fight. So that is. That's the game, Yoshi Touch and Go. I remember this as being a crazy thing that was so shallow in the sense that it lasted hardly any time. It was kind of the proto-mobile game, and I believe we both played quite a lot of it. So, I don't know. This song didn't actually stand out to me at all. I didn't remember this song whatsoever, but clearly for you, it probably held a lot more memories.
This is like the music, like first level straight away when Baby Mario is like falling down on the falling section.
Yeah, it's the sky area.
This is the music playing. Like that is the first music in-game music you hear. So, I was, good pick. I was struggling because I don't know. I'm very good. If this was just a test of recognizing a tune, like I'd get 100%. But it's putting a name on it and understanding where it's from is just so difficult.
That's the hard part.
That is the hard part, and it's so strange because it's something that's so clear in your mind in terms of the music itself, and your mind just like flashes back to these memories of like when you were younger playing this game, and like I bought this pretty near the launch of the game. I've actually got the American copy of this.
I do as well for some reason. I have no idea why that is. But,
I might have bought you it when I was over. I can't remember.
Maybe, that might have been that situation. Who knows?
I did sink a lot of hours into this game trying to beat high scores and things. And I think it does actually have a good at least 6 hours in it if you choose to want to go for some high scores. And I'd say I sunk about that much.
There's definitely like a skill ceiling there that you can aim to hit, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's an incredibly innovative, well-designed game. I seem to think it came at a similar time to Canvas Curse.
I mean, it was definitely before Canvas Curse, because that was kind of the thing that secured the DS with like a proper kind of full-on adventure and campaign, and this was very much a prototype, very much kind of a demo almost. But it still like showed off concepts of what the DS could do with both the top screen and the touch screen kind of working in conjunction.
Exactly, and as much as I've gone from very warm on a game like the original Yoshi's Island to very cold on a game like Woolly World, if this game had had an adventure mode and like had levels that you had to get through and clear, it would have been way higher up in my estimations, and would have been I think it would have gone down right alongside a game like Kirby Canvas Curse, because it really, like, as a games system, just played well mechanically with the touchscreen and everything.
It certainly probably kind of suffered musically as a result of just having these two kind of levels, as it were. I'm sure there's a couple more themes than that, but really, it I'm sure would have had a greater soundtrack had it been extended out to a longer thing. But certainly music that you knew well enough, just not quite well enough, unfortunately, Bally. So there we go. All right. Well, you did get the hint question correct, so I'll give you a half point for that.
Okay, thanks.
But so we're at 3.5 here. But let's move on and hit the final one, which I hope will be a little bit of an easier one to end on. So let's go. Bally, I think I'm ready to fall asleep after listening to that track.
Oh,
Very
so
much puts me in a
relaxing.
relaxing mood. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
So, you have a guess here?
Yeah, I really knew this from literally the first chord. I'm going to assume you're not being a massive pain.
Okay.
And, picking... Right, I know that this is Animal Crossing.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that you've not picked City Folk over Wild World.
I'm
so
not a madman, Bally.
Okay, good. I'm going to go with Wild World.
Yes.
And, yeah, again, all these games, maybe bar... I can't remember. What was the first game again?
It was Steel Diver Sub Wars.
Okay, but bar Steel Diver Sub Wars and perhaps Yoshi Touch and Go. I've sunk a lot of time into the other 3 games, I want to say. Especially Animal Crossing Wild World, we played an absolute ton of it. And I want to say that we were into it before podcasts. Well, at least before I was into podcasts, because I played this with the sound coming through, and I want to say is this the generic night theme, or is it like winter themed, I want to say?
So let me tell you how it's impossible to choose a song from this game, because every song is based on a certain time of day. Actually, every hour of the day has a specific theme to it, but they're all so similar and interlinked and use the same instrumentation that it all kind of is very obvious no matter what you use. I tried to go for like the most obscure possible. This is actually like the 11 p.m. Theme, so as soon as it hits 11, which is funny because it's actually 11 p.m. for me right now, so it's very fitting. But it's unless I'm going to dig into the KK Slider stuff, which would have made it far too obvious. It's very difficult to choose something that is hard to guess from the Animal Crossing soundtrack. Really, it's so distinctive.
I associate this music, and 11 is interesting because I do associate that sort of silence and long held chords with the like tinkly little bits at the end. I associate that with sometimes having a long day at school or going out somewhere, coming back late, and then like playing this like before going to bed. And this is the hour of Animal Crossing that I'm going to play before going to bed, and it was always this music. So yeah, again, really vivid memories of like just childhood. Really, like it's just so. I just really enjoy like listening to old video game music because of like how it makes your body, and especially I don't know, my mind just gets tricked into thinking it's in a different time period. It's a very weird feeling.
Music is very nostalgic. It's one of the most effective tools, I think, at bringing you back to a time and place. I don't think it's quite as effective as smell, as I think we discovered when we went back to our old school and went to the gym, and like, holy shit, the smell like just brings you back like nothing else does. But music is certainly a big factor there. Let's have a shot of the hint question here, Bally.
Yeah, here we go.
So it's an interesting one. Again, on January 26, 2006, a blank letter was sent to a number of players connected to Nintendo Wi-Fi connection that contained a glitch item that was able to corrupt save game data. What was the name of this item?
Oh, goodness sake.
I know, convoluted.
Yeah, was it one of those gyroid things? But it was like a special one, I want to say.
No, unfortunately it wasn't. It was an item called the Red Tulips. And apparently, if placed on the floor inside the player's house, the item would create an invisible and indelible wall that rendered the spot in which it was positioned useless. Which would have been horrific, I think, in any situation in Animal Crossing.
Thanks, Nintendo.
Yeah. So I'm glad we avoided that. I think I do remember reading about this at the time and being aware of it and being like, I need to stay away from some stuff in Animal Crossing to make sure I don't get this and ruin my game, because at that point in time, man, save game data, very important to us, I have to say. It still is important, but like back then, especially with a game like Animal Crossing, you don't want your data corrupting. That's horrendous. That's really bad. But yeah, no, absolutely, this game has music that is so distinctive that it's really hard to not recognize it when it's put in your face like that. I think the KK Slider stuff is bloody fantastic. Always had a certain theme playing in my house, and I can't remember the name of it now, but like there are certain KK Slider songs that just really kind of I have associations with of that time period and playing Animal Crossing. So many hours lost to it, and I do think like Animal Crossing is one of those games that it's kind of a time and place thing, and I think it's only really special for your first time through because they haven't done enough to kind of distinguish it in other entries, and I enjoyed New Leaf definitely much more than City Folk, but it's no Wild World, and I don't think anything will be Wild World ever again, unfortunate as that is.
Yeah, I don't think anything will be, you're right, but I am now, I've said this before, I do think I am now in a position to try another Animal Crossing when it does come out, hopefully on the NX, who knows, but they need to change it up a bit because, yeah, like you said, Wild World was our first, and it was just so fresh and so awesome, and like it was like our first online game we like played together, I want to say.
Yeah, very very close to that. Anyway,
it was a great time.
Yep. So yeah, Bally, I think that's it. You got a total of 4.5 points, admirable score, and hope to continue with the Jukebox sometime in the future. Bally, I'm sure you're gonna take some revenge here.
I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna get some cracking tunes to flummox you with.
And some questions, of course, now that we've added this element.
Questions, oh god, what an element that is.
Yeah. Fun stuff, actually. I actually found that I learned quite a few interesting things about these games by going in there and looking for stuff that I could kind of dig up. So always worth it, always worth learning more about the games of our past. So I guess that's pretty much going to close out, though, for the episode. Bally, let's remind people that they should be continuing to play Metroid Zero Mission for our Backlog Club. That is going to be happening next episode. So if you haven't got to it yet, you still have 2 weeks as of the time that this episode goes out. Which is plenty of time to play through Metroid Zero Mission. Neither of us have started it yet, so it better be plenty of time to play Metroid Zero Mission. Bally, I know we're both looking forward to that, so where can people send all their thoughts about Zero Mission to us?
Yes, please send all your thoughts to ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That's ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. Or if you can't be bothered to send, get out your email, send a whole email, send us a tweet about Metroid Zero Mission using the hashtag Backlog Club. We're going to compile together both tweets as well as emails, and we just want as many of you guys to tell us what you think of that game. If you've played it in the past, or you're playing it with us now, or even if you're thinking about playing it in the future, what do you think about Metroid Zero Mission? So yeah, use the hashtag Backlog Club.
And what is the Twitter account that they can send all that to, Bally?
The Twitter account is @TNL Podcast. That's @TNL Podcast. It's always the best account to follow for all the updates from the show.
It is indeed. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm @Lordnbz. I'm also Lordnbz on the Miiverse, and I guess I'm Lordnbz Nintendo account now, because that just happened today, and I signed up for a Nintendo account, and I pre-registered for Miitomo, and I have no idea if it's done anything. So today, 17th of February is when Nintendo put out all their registration stuff for their new Nintendo account stuff. So, Bally, you better get on that, I guess, seeing as you haven't done so far.
Okay.
So, Bally, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter. I am @Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91. That is also my name on the Miiverse, so go check me out on there. Always playing lots of games, always posting all the time.
Indeed. You can find us. We can be founded. Where are we? Who knows? On the internet.
Where are you, MBZ?
Upside down, clearly. Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, everywhere possible. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a review. Just got a recent review on the American iTunes store, which we found quite funny, and we enjoyed reading it. So thanks for continuing to write us great stuff. We really appreciate that, and it also helps us grow the show, find more listeners, which is always great, because then that means better engagement, more emails, all that fantastic stuff. I think that's pretty much us wrapped up for the show. Bally, anything else to add before we close?
I'm just looking forward to a bit of Metroid Zero Mission. It has been too long since I've played a Metroid game.
Yes, it has. You have a few, actually, in the pile of shame, in the backlog for you to clear, but this one's up next. Looking forward to getting into that and having a deeper discussion next time. That's pretty much going to be us. So we'll see you guys in the next episode. Until then, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye. The musical interludes from today's show were a piano cover of Id Purpose from Fire Emblem Awakening and a remix of Andy's theme from Advance Wars. I know he built C-3PO, and I heard how fast his parts can go, and we were broke, it's true, so we made a wager or two. It was a prepubescent flying ace, and the minute Jabba started off that race, well, I knew who'd win first place. Oh, yes. It was our boy. He was German, yeah, this is Anakin guy. What am I doing? Herr Anakin. Oh, Vader is my father. Vader. Darth Vader. Oh ja, Darth Vader.